Welcome back. So in this lesson, we're going to prep this for 3D printing. And this one's pretty easy. We just have to collapse our text and then send it on over for printing. So let's go ahead and click on our text layer down here. We'll right click and say convert to mesh. And that is, destructive. So if we ever wanted to change that, we just have to erase it and create a new set of text if we ever wanted to change it. But we'll just click on the text, shift click on the amp, and do Control minus. There we go. Now we've got a nice cutout of our text. It's kind of hard to see with the Eevee because there's no light down here. So let's go into solid mode and just kind of check that out. That looks good. Getting some nice shadows. There we go. So that's working. And then we'll switch on back over to Eevee. Let's check out our layers. Everything should be nested all inside. So make sure, everything's linked together. That way, if you move your design, hit G and grab your amp, just kind of move it around. If you move it around, everything should stay together like a little family. So all we have to do now is go to our 3D printing toolbox, go to our export tab and click on our folder. And we'll just tell Blender where we want these STLs to go. I have an STLs folder. We'll say we want it to land here and hit accept. And for the format, STL, and hit export. And we'll get our confirmation. And let's go ahead and jump in our slicer of choice. And I'm in Simplified 3D here. We'll just open up STLs. There's our phone amp, and open it up. Hey, there we go. It's exactly the same size. We've got a really cool look, and we've got a nice flat bottom. So that should fit perfectly for our phone. With a little bit of wiggle room. And let's go ahead and look at our settings. We can do 20%, our layer. We could even do, 0.3 or 0.2. 0.2 is fine. And our shells, we don't need to include a raft or support. So just hit OK and prepare for print. And there we go. So definitely a longer print. It's almost 20 hours to print this. So we could always go in and make adjustments, make it less thick, and that will cut the print time way down. So, feel free to make any adjustments that you want. I may go back into Blender and just thin it out just a little bit. So make sure we have our amp, and then under our solidify modifier, we have 8. Let's see if we can cut it down to like 4. Let's see what that does. Okay, that's better. But notice we've cut a hole in the bottom here. So I may actually parent the text to this box here. Just Control P and set object to parent. And now let's go into our view. So I still have the box selected, right? We'll do G and Z and just barely move it down. I may even hold Shift and come up until it barely cuts through the bottom. So I'm just barely nudging this to see how far. Actually, we could just go to side view, go into wireframe. That may make it a little easier. There we go. Now we can just see what we're doing. So we'll do G and Z. Just bring that up. We don't want to go too thin, and we still need some room for our text. So we'll do just a little bit there. There we go. And I'm going to grab the text and do G and just grab it. Maybe move it up just a little bit. And let's go into solid view and do Control 7 to look at the bottom. So we'll just scale it down a little bit. And then do Control A to reset our scale because it was all out of whack. And then just grab it, kind of center it up there. Go to our side view and wireframe and just kind of cut out a piece of that. So G and Z. And I just want it just a little bit, just to give us, some branding there. Go back to solid view. There we go. So don't have as much foundation at the bottom. So if we look at the front here, we may have some issues with this angle right here. So I'm going to go back into sculpting and kind of smooth that out right here. So let's do sculpt mode. Actually, make sure you have your amp first because we want to take the amp into sculpt mode. So we got our amp. Now do sculpt mode. And let's just kind of hit F. And I've got the smooth brush right here. And let's just smooth it out. See if we can make it, less of that dramatic curve right there. That way we don't need any supports. There we go. It's getting better. I may even take the strength up. And let's just look around. From the side. Maybe do the same thing here. Just kind of curve it out, just so we have a nice curve right there. I'm just going to smooth out the bottom. So this is, again, just a super flexible workflow. Things, you may have to do when you're designing products is just, try and see where you may have to make adjustments. So now let's go back into object mode. Yeah, so that looks a little better. We've got a nice 3D printable curve right there. This still looking a little steep right here on the front. So let's go back into sculpt mode. I'm just going to smooth that out. I'll make it a little less steep there. Maybe even there. All right, let's try that. Yeah, that looks better. And then we'll go into wireframe mode. Yeah, I'm liking that. All right, so go back to our Eevee. Check out the bottom, give it another look over. And let's export it again. So it's just going to overwrite that file. Go back into our slicing software. Just replace it in. Yeah, that's looking better. So we'll go ahead and for this one, I may use a raft because it's only a little bit of surface area and we've got such a big print here. So maybe use a raft just to give it a little bit more foundation when we go to 3D print. So let's prepare. And remember we dropped the thickness in half, so it should be a faster print now. So it did shave off a few hours. It's still 15 hours of printing, which is quite a long time. So, half a day. So maybe even go back and change our layers to, even like 0.3, just so it's a little rougher resolution. So we'll slice it up. And there we go. So that's 11 hours. That's pretty doable. Not too bad. And as always, it's great practice to scrub through your slicing to make sure everything looks good. We got a nice raft there. And then let's see if our text showed up. There's our logo or titles. And then everything will just print. All that looks good. I'm not seeing any artifacting. You can see when our phone case comes in, it's a nice thin wall, but not too thin. And it'll just appear. And we do have some issues right here now that I'm noticing. This edge right there is just kind of hovering and floating in midair. So we may have to sculpt that and bring it up just a little bit right there. I don't know if you can see. It would bridge a little bit, but some of that's we're gonna miss a little bit of that. So let's go back into Blender, select your amp, and go to sculpt mode. And yours may not have this, but these are things that you may have to do. You're just always on the look for as a designer. So it looks like it's these guys right here. So I'm gonna shrink my brush with F, and I've still got the smooth tool. I'm just smooth that out just a little bit. Maybe right there where our phone amplifier comes in. That may help it bridge right there. And I may tone down the strength right here. Just kind of blend it in, just so it doesn't look as harsh. And maybe do the same thing over here. Just kind of smooth it out where the phone's going to come in. That way it's not so wavy. It can just do a straight bridge right there. All right, let's try that. So let's go back to object mode. Turn my phone back on and make sure you have just your amp selected and hit export. And just bring in our updated file and prepare for print. And there we go. So it looks like it's more of a curve, so that should be better. Let's just scrub through that. And there we go. So now it'll just kind of curve up and bridge. I'm much happier with that. We're not going to have any like stringy strings of plastic hanging down. And we got this really nice curvature going. So that is just the simple kind of workflow for designing a product for your phone. So I hope you had fun with these lessons and learned a lot. Let's go ahead and print that thing.